This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
The current generation of satellites, we can now track water availability and changes to water availability and to water storage all over the world. The pattern that emerges is one that is quite compelling in the following ways. Imagine a global pattern where the wet areas of the world are getting wetter. So that's the high Arctic and the tropics. The high latitude parts of the world and the low latitude parts of the world. Those areas are getting wetter. And the arid and semi-arid parts in the middle are getting drier. So we see the wet areas of the world getting wetter and the dry areas of the world getting drier. And embedded in those drying mid-latitudes are these hot spots for water scarcity, which basically represent the world's major aquifer systems, which also coincide with the world's major food-producing regions. And we see that those aquifers are being depleted at unsustainable rates. The satellite that we've been using in our group, which is called GRACE, which stands for Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, we are actually weighing water mass changes. I like to say that GRACE works like a scale in the sky. There are two satellites. They orbit at about 400 kilometers. They orbit over the poles. And there's two of them. They chase each other around. They're separated by about 200 kilometers. So they're flying in a line over the poles. And of course, the Earth is spinning. And so the satellites are sort of sweeping over the Earth. And what happens is those two satellites they act like a scale because they're responding to gravitational variations in Earth's gravity field. What does that mean? It means the following. When those satellites fly over a region that has gained water mass because of a big flood, say flooding in the upper Missouri, that region has gained water weight, it exerts a slightly greater tug on those satellites that are 400 kilometers up in the air and pulls them down towards the Earth just a little bit, a few millimeters. And likewise, when those satellites fly over a place like you had a drought here a few years ago, so the state this region lost a lot of water weight. And so this region exerts just a slightly less of a gravitational tug on those satellites, and they float just a little bit higher in their orbit, just a few millimeters. We track the position of those satellites incredibly accurately to 1,000th of a millimeter. It's less than that, greater than that. We call it the submicron level. So by keeping track of the ups and downs of the satellites, it's like keeping track of the surface of a scale, and it allows us to map out the regions underneath where those measurements are taken that are gaining or losing water mass on a monthly basis. So we can create these incredible maps. And these hot spots or these aquifers just pop right out. If we had to rank Middle East and the North China Plain are in India, northwestern India, are among the aquifers that are being most rapidly depleted. But here in the United States, the southern part of the Ogallala and the Central Valley in California are right. We're right behind those top-ranked aquifers in terms of depletion rate. Over half of the world's major aquifers are being depleted at a very rapid clip. So most of these aquifers, the ones that are being depleted, support irrigation for the world's major food-producing regions. So there is no question that it takes a lot of water to grow food. So we really need to get at some basic parameters. How much water do we have? How much do we need? And the needs now need to include not just food production, but we have to leave some water behind for the environment. We have to think about energy production, and how are those changing? How is the supply and how is the demand changing over time? I think that many of these problems are going to be solved in the United States anyway, state by state or region by region. When you look at Kansas and Nebraska and Oklahoma, you look at the Ogallala, we're producing a lot of grains, a lot of corn, just using water from that region, but it supports the whole world, it supports the whole country. And the same is true for California. So we may be needing some help from other states, but we use more than we have available to us. And so we have to get a grip on slowing the rate of depletion, if not stemming the rate of depletion. So can that be done? Probably. A lot of it depends on what the climate is like and what the commitment is to building the infrastructure to get that recharge. It takes a lot of water to grow food. We use more than we have, and we're making up the difference from groundwater, and it's not being replaced. But what the satellite allows us to see is that this is a global problem, and let's remember that population is growing, and so we're going to have more and more challenges ahead to produce food for a growing population while that groundwater supply is dwindling.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.